Okay, now it says starting. It will start within 60 seconds. Okay, so give me just one more second to change the slides. Okay. And Leslie, we are live in about 5 seconds. Here we go. So if you'd like to start us out again, Leslie, that would be great. And we're ready to go. I am sorry. I think we may have lost Leslie there with the jump. Let's see. Okay, I do apologize for the a little bit of technical glitch there. We lost Leslie for a minute. I think she's just
I'm back.
You're back on.
I didn't know I was off.
Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries.
All right. Well, we have people in now. We have our technology working for us. So, Leslie, if
Awesome.
you'd like to start us out again.
Yeah, let's do this.
This time people will hear it.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I am so happy you're here. I hope you're happy too. And if you're not right now, I hope you soon will be. So my name is Leslie Householder, and I believe you'll see a slide with my mug on it here in a second. Or do I switch that?
Oh, I switched. Sorry.
And so I'm going to be seeing that. Can you hear me? There we are. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and there is a little bit of delay, just so you know, Leslie, between when we talk and when they actually are able to respond on things. So just to let you know on that.
All righty. So I am a wife and mother of 7, which is my biggest accomplishment. I'm also an award-winning author of The Jackrabbit Factor, Why You Can, Portal to Genius, which is the sequel, and Hidden Treasures, Heaven's Astonishing Help with Your Money Matters. I've also authored 3 courses that are the Genius Bootcamp. It's a 3-day workshop, and the Mindset Fundamentals e-course, which is an 8-week program, and then there's the Mindset Mastery 12-week home study program. On your screen, you should see links to each of those if you are curious about them. But the reason I do what I do is to help you crush every challenge, achieve every goal, and vanquish every monster under your bed. We all have them. And I like to show people how to use the rare kind of faith that causes things to change, because there is a kind of faith that does that. And truly, the happier you are, the easier it is to do. So that's why today we're going to learn something new about happiness. So I'd like to introduce you to Scott Wilhite. He is, by the way, there is a link there on where you can find out more about me at ararekindoffaith.com. So Scott Wilhite is an award-winning filmmaker. He's a social entrepreneur. He's using his creative talents to relieve unnecessary suffering. And what can be more unnecessary than being unhappy when you don't have to live that way, right? He's the creator of the Feed Your Happy app, which is so cool, and the author of the 7 Core Skills of Everyday Happiness, scientifically proven skills for a happier, more meaningful life. But I'll tell you what, I am excited to be working with Scott because I've gotten to know him a little bit more recently, and he is just so down to earth with the principles that I teach and with the principles that help you live life happier. And so often we feel like we're stuck. We feel like we are just trapped, and we are not as much as we think we are. It's a deception. And learning these principles helps us realize that we are free to create and choose greater happiness. But I love what he does because his goal is to bring nourishment and to nourish people. It's his mission to help people feel happier and be happier. And then as a result, we can become more successful in anything that we try to do. So without further ado, Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I am just excited to hear what you have to say.
All right. I am excited too. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Scott Wilhite, and unless you can honestly say I can't possibly get any webinars for you, you are absolutely going to love this.
Hey, Scott, I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
You bet.
Your audio is kind of roboting out now and then. and I'm not sure
Oh,
why,
is it?
but something you might
Okay.
want to look at. And also, one of our guests is saying that the screen says the video is restricted and must be approved for her to view it.
Ah, yeah, that is a technology thing that I'm not really sure how to um
Is there
yeah.
is there anybody on here listening that can see the screen? If you can chat on that side little thing and let us know if you are able to see it. We'd like to know if it's a system problem or if it might be a local computer thing.
Yeah, and I did have another computer open and I was able to see the slide, so I know it is coming through for some people, but do let us know if it
Thank you,
says,
guys.
yeah, it says we can see it, we can see it. Okay, so I will continue. If you're having troubles, I do apologize. There will be a rebroadcast of this too, just so you know. And let me just tell you a simple about also kind of what I can see it, I can see it, I can see it. Hey, this is great. I'm glad most people can see. And also, while you're talking, tell us a little bit about where you're from. And I'll tell you a little bit about me in a bit, but right now let's get to know you. And again, there is a little latency issue that happens between when we talk and when you're able to respond. And so, understand that it will take a little bit for us to see that. Let me tell you a little power tip so that you can get the most out of this webinar. And it starts with removing distraction. You don't want to close the door. You want to turn off your cell phone, close down Skype or any other chat windows that you have. Anything that could, prevent a quality problem, with technology being what it is, sometimes you need all the bandwidth you have. But also, I want you I want you to not multitask. Allow yourself the freedom to totally soak this in. I don't want you to get brain damage, and I say that jokingly, but there's some amazing science that has come out against multitasking. And we don't have time to go through that now. Just know that you will be much happier if you allow yourself the freedom to totally soak this in. Treat yourself like you would treat a friend, and that means with compassion. If you're familiar with Brene Brown, she talks about talking to yourself, that inner chatter, like you would talk to a friend. Do the same thing here, but treat yourself kindly. Don't be an unruly taskmaster. Don't give into that bad habit of spreading yourself too thin. Practice yourself being mindful and really giving this your full attention at the end. Your full attention. I was jumping ahead to my next slide. I want you to stay to the end for the bonus. And I hope you stick with me because I have this awesome bonus. It is a free 23-page downloadable quote book. And as you'll learn from my strategy, so much of your satisfaction in life comes from you strengthening your ability to focus on what's going right in your life. And this 23-page quote book will help. So make sure you stick with me for this bonus at the end. I am just looking at we have Donna from Utah. We have Joanne from Utah. We have a lot of Utahns. Awesome. Spring Creek, Nevada. We've got Catherine. Melanie from Idaho. Yay! Tricia from Salt Lake City. We have Vancouver, Canada, via Boston, and Denmark and Holland from Rose. Awesome. Welcome. I am so glad you're here, and I really hope that you get a ton out of this. I hope you...
Did you see that Lumi from Romania?
Romania. Awesome. Awesome. And anyway, I hope you're having a great time. I'm going to put up a poll right now. And what I want, I would love to have you, anyway, I'd love to have you answer this one question. And that is, how happy are you right now? So are you able to see that on your end?
I see the, let's see, I see, nope, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Oh, it's coming through because people are answering that. All right. So I want to go to the webinar promise. I want to tell you what you're going to, I want to be very clear on what you're going to get out of today's webinar, and with this, with these responses, hey, they're coming in, I can see this, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But the promise is I help people go from level 5 happy to level 7 or above and make it stick. And I know that sounds like a bold promise, and I wouldn't believe it either if I hadn't gone through the transformation myself. So, think about, where are you at right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, if you were to answer this honestly, and remember, this is for you, not for me, how much happiness headroom do you have? Could you imagine yourself being any happier, and how? And also, what do you need in order to be happier? What's missing in your life right now? And then I do, question you. I say, honestly, and while we're waiting for all the responses, I do have an honesty story for you. And it's not exactly one that I'm proud of. But in middle school, I cheated in my Algebra 1 class. I didn't really do my homework, and I gathered, I joined the group and I gathered with the rest of the kids during lunch. And, I do that, hey, what'd you get for number 12 kind of thing. And also a lot of the answers were in the back of the book. It made class easy, but, and I rationalized my behavior away. But the next year I took geometry, and it was the year after that when I really got hit with a surprise. The required class was this thing called Algebra 2. Well, during the first 2 weeks, they did this review of Algebra 1, and I heard all the kids going, oh, yeah, I remember this. Well, for me, it was totally new. That year, I cheated myself. I only cheated myself. So when I ask you, what level of happy are you? Remember, if you're not fully honest, the only one you're really hurting is yourself. So let's look at the responses. We have the most responses actually come in at number 7. We have 30% there. We have 3% that say I can't complain. 5 that say, or 18% say I'm in the middle. We have quite a lot. We have 15% that are quite discouraged at 14% now, growing number 3. And then 17% up at number 8, 9% at number 9 saying life is amazing. And anyway, thank you for being honest there. Thank you for kind of looking at yourself and realizing, how much happiness headroom do you have?
And Scott,
yeah.
I'm going to just interject. I just found your poll. Okay, now I see where it is. It's in the menu up at the top in the center. So if you guys didn't see the poll button, it's above on the right-hand side for polls, and you can go mark it there. Is that where you do it? Or is that?
Yep. Actually, I don't know if they get that screen, that same screen that you see.
Probably not, because I don't see where to vote myself. I can't tell you how happy I am.
How happy are you?
I'm pretty happy, but I want to mark it somewhere. Okay, I'll be quiet now. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're doing great. And I used to think I was happy too. I would, if anybody asked me, I would say, oh, I'm a 7. Yeah. Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. So, why are you listening to me right now? This is a little bit about my background. I'm an award-winning commercial filmmaker. I am the best-selling author of the 7 Core Skills of Everyday Happiness, scientifically proven skills for a happier, more meaningful life. I'm the creator of the Feed Your Happy app. And most importantly, I'm a former level 2. But like I said, I was sure I was a number 7. And I'll tell you my story a little bit later, and I'll share my system for leveling up. But I do want to point out one thing real quick, and that is that living mindfully will not happen automatically. To get sustainable results, the secret is to repeatedly train yourself with a simple system. And I will be sharing with you what I did to go from a level 2, to much higher. And before we go much further, I do want to, let the people go for whom this information will not help. And this kind of surprised me. I thought that happiness was for everyone. And so the people that this won't help, and don't worry, it's not the level 2s, and it's actually not the level 8s, or the level 9s. And it really comes down to this simple question: are you willing to be happier? And I know this seems like an obvious bonehead question, but it really is not a trivial question. And this is actually a question that you will repeatedly ask yourself, not just today, but basically every day when you want more. Because when you learn what I'm going to share with you today, it is going to change your perspective. You're going to find that it's not the things you can't change that will determine your happiness. It's the things you can change. And if you can change them, then it brings up the question again: are you willing to? Are you willing to be happier? And how willing? Now, you've likely already wasted time and money and resources trying to buy happiness, or travel to it, or wear it, or win it, or drive it, or earn it, or consume it, or live in it. That's the easy stuff. It's ineffective, but easy. For example, I have a friend named Steve, great guy. And we were talking recently. He was telling me about how unfulfilling success was for him. He told me that he was on the fast track. He was the youngest in his company to get to a director level. And then he was the youngest in the company to have his own division. He was on this fast track and success came at every corner, but he found it to be empty success. He told me I was making great money, but it wasn't buying me anything. He became disillusioned and dissatisfied. Does this sound familiar? Is this where you're at? Now, if you have been frustrated by how elusive happiness is, that's okay. You've probably never done anything like what we're going to talk about today, which is why you haven't seen the results that we're going to talk about. You are going to love this. So, are you still with me? And I'm really glad that you are, because that means you're willing to be happier. Now, can you see yourself being happier? Can you imagine you're in your mind, no longer feeling like you're a victim of those things that you can't change? Can you picture how much better your life will be when you rid yourself of stress and anxiety and worry, or when you jump out of bed in the morning excited for what the day might bring? Or when you smile as you breathe in like this peace and this tranquility and love and satisfaction that are now a regular part of your life. Now, I hope as we talk that you can see headroom for more happiness. You're going to love going from wherever you are. If you're a level 3, you're going to love going to a level 7. Or if you're a level 7, going to an 8, or maybe going from an 8 to a 9.5. The important thing is knowing and believing that you can change these things in your life. And now that we both know that you're willing to, a whole new door has opened up for you. Now, there's one more thing that I want to touch on that's super important for you to understand, and you'll best understand this with a story. In 2005, I was sent on a filming trip to Mongolia. I followed these American doctors doing something extraordinary. They were restoring sight to the blind. Now, actually, it really wasn't extraordinary at all. In fact, it was quite commonplace. All they were doing was removing cataracts that had built up in these Mongolian people's eyes. Here's kind of a quick aside. If you look at this young girl's eyes, you can actually see the white cataracts there. Look, it's pretty easy to see. Well, in well-developed countries like the United States, getting cataracts removed is like going to the grocery store. People do it every day. You walk in, you walk out, you're done, and you're better. But for these Mongolians, who had no access to vision care, the cataracts built up and up until they completely covered their eyes. They were blind, some of them partially, others completely. But what's sad about all this is it was completely preventable. They were unnecessarily blind. Now, to me, this is tragic. And I do want to stop a moment and tell you something about me. I am the kind of person who hates to see people suffer. I always want to jump in and do something to help. My wife calls me a fixer. And I tell you this because this is my why. I have no hidden agenda here. I want you to know what I have found. I'm here to share with you how I went from a level 2 to much happier today, where I found that I have, much more control over my happiness levels. So imagine if you were one of these Mongolians, if this were you. If you couldn't see, if life were dark or murky and you couldn't do all those things that brought fulfillment in life. You also imagine that they probably thought their blindness was totally out of their control. They didn't know any better. They didn't know that it was completely possible for them to see again. They accepted the fact that this is just how life is. They didn't like it, but they accepted it. And I think that's true because wouldn't you think that they would be working to move heaven and earth to go to see a doctor or a clinic or wherever to have their sight restored? Well, wouldn't you? I'm sure this is true. This is a shot of all the people lined up outside hoping to get in, hoping to have help with their eyesight. Now, if you can imagine the expression on these people's faces as they had their clear eyesight restored to them, can you imagine them going from this life of darkness to where everything's murky or out of focus to this crystal clear vision? Well, why is this important to see in your mind? Because this is likely you. You have been unnecessarily blind, unconsciously, really, and not with your eyes, with your mind. You are suffering from psychological blindness, and you probably didn't know about it. And don't worry, we all get this way. You didn't do anything wrong. Having our minds clouded over is as common as cataracts are to our eyesight, but it's also just as limiting. It's just as confining. If you think about all the things that these people couldn't do while they were unnecessarily blind, and picture how amazed they were when the cloud was lifted for them so that they could see clearly, this is what you will realize and you will experience when you see how limiting your mindset has been to you. Now, don't worry, you don't have to believe me now. I just want to point out that this will happen to you if you stick with me and remove all of your mental cataracts. Right now, you are experiencing unnecessary suffering. Life is harder for you than it has to be. Or more correctly, you are making life harder for you than it has to be. Tell me if you think this is true. Write in the comments if you believe this is true. Again, it'll take a little moment for them to come through, but Leslie, if you want to tell us, kind of some of those comments, that'd be great. I have a salesman friend who tells me all the time how he has been his own worst enemy. He has been sabotaging his success all the time. We do, with these mental cataracts, we prevent our own success. Let's see, we're getting some of those responses in now, I think. And I will tell you right now, pain and suffering are not the same thing. Pain is physical and it's generally pretty temporary, but suffering is psychological and it can last a lifetime. Now, here's an example. If I slapped you in the face right now, and I'm not saying I ever would, it's not really in my nature, but if I reached out right now through your computer and gave you a big old slap across the face, how long would it hurt? Well, it depends on the hurt we're talking about. The sting of the slap will last 5 minutes, 10 if I really whack you, because physical pain is temporary. But you are going to begin to hate me. You are going to have all this venom build up inside of me. You are going to be angry and vengeful. And every time we meet or every time you think of me, it's going to affect you. That is suffering. And that's the difference. Suffering is psychological and it can last a lifetime. So when we're talking about relieving unnecessary suffering, that's really what we're talking about, is removing some of those mental cataracts that have been holding us back. Okay. Were we able to get some responses on that, Leslie?
I think I'm delayed. I'm seeing the responses much later than what you're seeing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, let me jump to the next part. And that is, okay, time for me to tell you my story. And I'm going to talk to you about my unnecessary suffering and my psychological cataracts and how I had no idea that I was unhappy or that greater happiness was even possible. Again, I tell you this so that you can see that it is possible. If a guy like me can find great happiness, obviously you can too. If you're doubtful that this is going to work, maybe my story will help. So let me tell you where I was. I was an award-winning commercial filmmaker. I've created amazing, beautiful cinematic stories. I've worked and worked and worked on my craft, and I've gathered shelves full of awards that prove that I'm good at what I did, and somehow this proves that my life is valuable. Okay, this is not really true. I believe that I was just as happy as the next guy, and if you asked me if I was happy, I would say, yeah, I'm a 7. And if you pressed me, I'd say, okay, well, I'm unsatisfied. I know I'm discontent. I certainly know I'm unfulfilled. And then if you kept pressing me, I would say, okay, I know I'm a tortured artist, but that's just how life is for creative people. I was and I knew that the reason, or at least I thought I knew, that the reason that I was dissatisfied or disgruntled was because of my job. It was because of these things that were outside of my control that would somehow make me happy. And I thought I would find that happiness in the next big gig or the next big award or a nicer car, or a bigger house or whatever, but happiness or fulfillment was always just out of reach for me. Now, really, I was only fooling myself. And, have you ever felt this way? Do you feel this way now? Is this striking a chord for you? Do you feel that your life lacks meaning, or that you're stuck in a rut and you don't know how to get out, or that you're constantly behind and you're racing to catch up, and everything, everything that's expected of you, it feels like no matter how hard you work, it's not going to make a difference. Well, um, oh, I'm sorry, a little bit behind on the slides. Well, it reminds me of that scene in Groundhog Day. If you remember this, Bill Murray's character is bowling with two drunk guys in this small town. Bill has been trapped in time, and every day he wakes up, it is still Groundhog Day, and he has to repeat it again and again. Well, he complains to his friends, what would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing you did mattered? Well, Ralph responds, that pretty much sums it up for me. Well, that was me. I had just, for more than a decade, I was just angry and frustrated, and I felt powerless. And the harder I worked, the more dissatisfied and discontent I became, because I believed that happiness and fulfillment and all this stuff was outside of me. I was miserable, but I didn't know about it. In fact, I got so frustrated with my job because I was sure that that's what was holding me back from feeling fulfilled and valued. Well, I got so frustrated that I quit my job. I didn't have anything else to go to. I just knew I didn't want to be there anymore. And I pursued that false hope that whatever would be next would magically make me happy. Now, this could have been a very dangerous road, and a lot of people get on this road. They go from next to next to next, and they never find it. They're so dissatisfied with life that they keep changing jobs or lovers, they get divorced, or they run around in circles hoping that they will magically find happiness. Well, I was certainly headed down that road when the most fortunate thing happened. And it was an accident, really. I bumped into this man who had a book under his arm, and it was on the science of happiness. Now, there was something inside of me that almost leaped out because I knew that that's what I wanted, what I really needed, actually. I ran to the bookstore, and what I had stumbled upon was this new scientific research of positive psychology. Top-tier universities, Harvard, Stanford, UCal, Berkeley, the University of Pennsylvania, they have been studying society's happiest, most resilient, most successful people. And not only did they study the outliers, those uncommonly happy people, but they also found that certain things could be replicated. Simple interventions could make a profound difference, and I'll share some of those with you today. So for me, I started consuming every book I could read on the subject, and I was temporarily forever changed. I got rid of stress and anxiety and worry. I was able to refocus, from obsessing about everything that I felt I was missing in my life. And I've talked a little bit about that. You can kind of understand my anxiety and my discouragement that I had there. And I changed that to appreciating what I already had. And I was truly being grateful for how fortunate my life was. I was able to see clearly about how I had been self-sabotaging my own happiness and how I had been my own worst enemy. It was completely transformative temporarily. Unfortunately, it didn't take me long to drift back into my old ways of thinking. Have you ever lost weight only to gain it all back again? Have you ever slipped back into your old ruts? That is the most frustrating thing in the world. And for me, I had found happiness. I had found that happiness was more than a mood or a feeling. It was a skill. And it was a skill I wasn't very good at. So that's why I started creating tools and systems to help me mentally condition my mind to accept and naturally respond with healthier thought patterns. And when I proved this system was successful, I began making it available to other people, which is why we're here together today. And I'll tell you a little bit more about some of those tools and systems later. And that's really in the and make it stick part of the webinar. But first, let's get you started leveling up right now. Now, we don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to stay super focused and give you one thing to concentrate on. I want to give you something that you could do in your life right now so that you could level up your happiness. When you walk away from this webinar, I want you to walk away not just with the belief that there are things in your life you can change, but I also want you to have something that you can do to immediately start improving your life. I want you to start feeling happier right now. Now, first, I do have to tell you a warning that, what we're going to talk about right now may seem too simple, too easy. You are likely going to discount it and think it won't work because it's just too easy. And I get that because I was in your shoes. When I first learned about these simple interventions, I didn't believe it either. And so I didn't do them. And so nothing in my life changed. And it was only because I got super frustrated with my life that I actually started doing any of these exercises. And that's where my life began to transform. So don't be like me. Okay, don't be like me at the beginning, to approach this with a doubtful mind. Give yourself a chance to believe. There's amazing science behind this. You just have to understand the dangers here, that these exercises are dangerously, deceptively simple. And let me frame this with a story. Now, in the Old Testament, they tell this story about this dude named Naaman. He had many things. He had money, power, leprosy. Okay, he didn't want the leprosy part. Well, one of his servants told him about this holy man in Israel. So he travels to meet him in hopes of being cured. But things don't go the way he expects. Not only does this holy man not come out to meet him personally, he sends his servant. But also the task he's told to do is so pathetically simple. He's told to wash 7 times in the River Jordan. So he leaves furious. And I'm not sure how far away he got before one of his servants stopped him and asked him an important question. He said something like this: "If Elisha had asked you to do some great thing, wouldn't you have done it? How much better that he simply says, 'Wash and become clean.'" So the caution is, this could happen to you. Some of the exercises may seem too simple, too easy. And the warning is, if you don't do them, you won't be cured. So we go back to that earlier question: are you willing to be happier? And I do find it interesting that he's asked to wash 7 times in the River Jordan, and my book is on the 7 core skills of everyday happiness. I think there's magic in that number 7. Also, I wonder what would have happened if Naaman had only done it half-heartedly. If he'd only washed 3 times, would he have been cured halfway? Or is it important that you follow these things all the way through and do all 7? It's something to think about. But let's get to skill number 1, and this is something that you can immediately start putting into practice. It's the granddaddy of all the core skills of everyday happiness. If you get super good at this one skill, you can spark your happiness levels wherever you are and in whatever fortunate or even unfortunate circumstance you may find yourself in. The skill is, dun, 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 gratitude. Okay, now think Naaman. I know this sounds too simple. It sounds too easy. Stick with me on this. Most of the scientific research coming out of all these positive psychology studies points to the fact that grateful people are happy. It comes up over and over and over again. Having that one trait can make the difference for you. And by the way, the definition of gratitude is this: gratitude is realizing you are the recipient of deliberate kindness. It's different from appreciation. Gratitude is realizing you are the recipient of deliberate kindness. It recognizes that there's a giver and a receiver, and you are that fortunate receiver. So now why is this a skill? And I want to explain this to you and this is really important, because if it's a skill, that means there's something you can do to improve it. In other words, if you can improve your gratitude levels, it is possible for you to also improve your happiness levels. You can go from level 5 to level 7 or above, or wherever you're starting from. And I remember when I was going through all this research, I stumbled on a statement made by one of the researchers. He or she, I can't really remember who said it, said, "You can't be grateful and unhappy at the same time." It was like somebody took this big 2x4 board and hit me upside the head. You can't be grateful and unhappy at the same time. In other words, if you're feeling unhappy and you deliberately take time to get yourself into a higher state of gratitude, you can get yourself happy. This was the single idea that hit me the hardest. Suddenly, with this one thought, I was free, because now all of those out of reach things in my life that were preventing me from feeling happy and fulfilled, the better job, the newer car, the nicer house, the European vacation. Now I realized that those things weren't holding me back at all. I was. It's like that scene at the end of The Wizard of Oz when the wizards just floated away in the balloon and Dorothy's crying out, you know, because she's lost her hope of getting back. Well, the good witch shows up and Dorothy asks her, "Oh, will you help me? Can you help me?" Glinda smiles and tells her, "You don't need to be helped any longer. You always had the power to go back to Kansas." The Scarecrow wisely questions, "Then why didn't you tell her before?" Answer, "Because she wouldn't have believed me. She had to learn it for herself." Well, you have those ruby red slippers on your feet, and you have the capacity to spark your happiness whenever you want, simply by actively, deliberately being grateful. And now you know how. Now you know that if you are feeling unhappy, you can change that by getting yourself into a state of gratitude. Now you know that if you are feeling only sort of happy, you can change that by getting yourself into a higher state of gratitude. And now you know that if you want to be happy every day, develop consistent habits of grateful thinking. Now, again, this won't happen by accident. It takes deliberate, conscious effort. So, how can you improve the skill of gratitude? You do it the same way that you can improve any skill, through repetition. Think about the violin or the piano. You don't get better at it by accident. It's practice, 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 repetition, repetition, repetition. It's about developing muscle memory. If you think about your brain like it's a muscle, with repetition, you are training your brain to think along healthier, more constructive lines. And you're doing it deliberately, intentionally, the way you want to think. So when you treat happiness or gratitude like a skill, happiness then becomes a choice, which takes us back to the earlier question. Are you willing to be happier? How willing? Now, here is one thing that you can do today. Today, I want you to start keeping a gratitude journal. Now, this was the first intervention that I put in place that transformed my life. And again, I didn't start doing this for 3 weeks because I didn't believe it would make a difference. It just seemed too simple, too easy. It was too fluffy, But I remembered at the end of those 3 weeks feeling so frustrated, so desperate, really. I had been reading about all these books on the science of happiness. I could see that it was within my grasp, but I certainly didn't feel it. So I had remembered then that I had discounted the idea of keeping a gratitude journal, but now I was so desperate, I was willing to try anything. So, and by the way, this exercise comes up repeatedly through all the scientific studies. So grab a journal right now. It can be a notebook, a hardbound journal, or something of heirloom quality. I ended up going out and purchasing a super nice leather journal with unlined paper, and I am on my 3rd journal now, and I can tell you these are some of the most important books that I own. So grab a journal and make a commitment. Commit to yourself that each night before you go to bed, you are going to take a few minutes and write 3 fortunate things that happened to you today. That's it. It's as simple as that. 3 fortunate things that happened to you today. And here's what you might experience. At least this is what happened to me. After the first week, nothing. And it was just like I had expected. Leslie, I know you talk a lot about you get what you expect, and that's what I got. I expected nothing. I got nothing. And I had a bad attitude about it. I didn't believe that it would work. And for the first few days, I didn't feel anything different until about day 7. And I remember I was super tired and I wanted to go to bed, but I had made a commitment to myself that I would write every night. And that's an important thing. You need to make this commitment no matter how tired you are. Don't allow yourself to go to bed without thinking back on the day and writing your 3 fortunate things. Well, here I was tired and I was cranky and I was frustrated that I couldn't think of 3 things. So the next day I decided I wasn't going to wait till the end of the day to come up with 3 fortunate things. So I started paying attention. And then the most amazing thing happened. I was driving through the canyon. I live up above Sundance and I would commute down through the canyon. Well, often I would get behind someone driving slow and it would super frustrate me. Well, on this day, this slow car in front of me pulled over to let me pass. And as I passed, I thought, wow, that was fortunate. That's what I'm going to write about tonight. And it was amazing. In my chest, I felt these warm feelings. I had just been the recipient of deliberate kindness, and I was feeling gratitude towards that person. And suddenly I could feel the difference it was making in my life. Now, I know it's surprisingly simple, but it could change your life. Bianca said, to be honest, I couldn't describe my gratitude journal other than life changing. You will be amazed by the outcome. Now, I do want to point out a few things. You need to commit to yourself, really, really commit to yourself. You're doing this for you. Also, that simple act of kindness for me, of the guy pulling over was so incredibly simple. I realized that stuff like that probably happens all the time, but I've never been paying attention enough to notice it. This will be the same for you. It's the little things that make the biggest difference in your life, but you have to be paying attention. Also, this gratitude business isn't about putting on rose-colored glasses or fooling your mind into only noticing the good or deluding yourself into thinking that bad stuff doesn't happen. No, this simple repeated exercise is about becoming more conscious and more aware, more awake and alive. It's about training your mind to pay attention to the repeated patterns of good things going on in your life. And the more you pay attention, the more you will train your mind to look for and expect good things to happen. And the more you do that, the more you will see it. You'll see all these good things happening. You will recognize that you are the recipient of deliberate goodness. And when you are grateful, deliberately, actively grateful, you will also be happy. Amazing, isn't it? Those ruby red slippers have been on your feet all along. You've had the power to completely change your happiness levels, and now you know about it. Now, there is so much more. That was just one intervention, one exercise in just one of the 7 core skills of everyday happiness. And you won't believe how much more good stuff I have available for you. And, we really didn't get to talk much about the science. I will tell you an amazing study in just a minute. But if you remember those mental cataracts, if you start doing this one exercise every single day, you are going to start seeing things more clearly, and you are going to start becoming more awake and alive and aware. Anyway, there's just so much more. Don't stop at level 5 happy. Don't go from level 5 only to 5.5. Let's take you to a 7 or an 8 or a 9.5. I find the more awake and aware I become, the more I realize I have headroom for improvement, and I know that I have the capacity to improve. I know I have the ability. I love striving, and I hope that you do too. So I do wish that we had more time so I could share how I got over more of the thought patterns that were sabotaging my happiness. And think about what are you doing? Are there people that you work hard to avoid? If you complain about the weather or your job or your coworkers or your spouse or your lack of a spouse, if you are often thinking, I'll be happy when, and you can find that you can fill the end of that statement with a myriad of out of reach options. If you're stressed and you're anxious and you're worried, or you wake up with the 2 a.m. stresses or have trouble falling asleep in the first place, or if you're so frustrated because you are feeling your life doesn't hold value or meaning, you want to live for something greater, you want to belong, you want your life to count for something, to matter. There are so many ways we can improve our lives together. And what you've experienced here is really just about becoming more awake and aware, and it's just one little step. So these strategies for solving these other difficulties in your life, I've got to tell you, they are just as simple about what we talked about with the gratitude journal. The problem comes in the implementation phase. We're now to the and make it stick part of the webinar. So if you just do it once or a couple of times, it will be like, doing a couple of sit-ups or crunches or going to the gym only for one day. You're not going to see much change. But if you can, and this works with any skill development, if you can get a consistent workout or practice schedule going, that's when you're going to experience amazing results. What you're battling really is human nature. Doing mindfulness exercises themselves isn't hard. It's the consistency really, that's the trouble. So let's talk about some resources. Now, you can absolutely go it alone. You can create your own system and try a do-it-yourself approach. That's what I did. I spent 3 years putting this all together, creating a system that works and that would impact all areas of my life. But you don't have to go from scratch, and you don't have to do it alone. I know that there's some amazing self-taught piano players out there, but man, that seems like a lot of unnecessary work to get those skills. Every high-performing athlete, musician, vocalist, or business professional has a coach or trainer to get them to the next level. And if you want to go that way, I'd love to share with you my system. So this is the process that I use to change my life, to pull myself out of the ruts and train my mind to see and be aware of all the good going on in my life. And I'm so happy to share it with you. But first, let me share with you what others say about my system. Dr. Paul Jenkins, a clinical psychologist who actually now purely uses positive psychology to help his patients help themselves, wrote about my methodology. He said, trying to find happiness is kind of like trying to find piano skills. Stop looking for happiness and start working on it. Greg Reed, the incredibly popular speaker and author of 3 Feet from Gold, said once, once you learn happiness is a skill, you'll never go back to just wishing for it. And Sean Achor, the ex-Harvard positive psychology researcher who authored the New York Times bestselling book, The Happiness Advantage, wrote about my book. He said, this book will teach you how to be as happy as the most naturally optimistic people you admire. Now, I'm not going to talk about the book. I want to talk to you about the system. This is much more effective because it's through that repetition where we experience the greatest lasting change. You understand the principles, that skills are developed through practice. So I've got a system that will help you practice making small incremental improvements to your life, and do that over time in a way that you will not only be creating healthy thought, positive thought patterns, but more than that, you will be creating a healthy lifestyle. And again, I compare this to physical fitness. It's not that single day at the gym. It's the consistent workouts, the lifestyle that makes positive change stick. So your positive lifestyle awaits. You simply need a routine and a system to do that. And the incredible thing is 10 minutes a day does wonders. Wouldn't that be amazing if we could get a healthy physical body by spending just 10 minutes a day at the gym? Yet a consistent 10-minute daily mental workout will change you in great ways. So, if you think you're too busy, let's go back to that earlier question. And remember, I said it wasn't a trivial question. Are you willing to be happier? And when I ask how willing, does 10 minutes a day sound unreasonable? Can you spend 10 minutes for yourself? 10 minutes where you get yourself in the proper, most productive mindset? Well, if you answered yes, then I've got this wonderful system that you can start using right now. It's called the 7 Core Skills of Everyday Happiness. I have packaged up all the best of positive psychology with their training and the mindfulness interventions so that you have them all in one place. Because what this is really about is about implementation. Learning is easy, but doing is where it becomes rewarding. So with this system, you will get it broken up. You get an easy 12-week system broken up into simple bite-sized chunks. You'll get this done for you comprehensive plan that will give you a well-rounded workout in all aspects of your life. This covers all 7 core skills, everything from the skill to get rid of stress and anxiety and worry to the skill of stretching every good moment by savoring the now, or the skill of fostering positive relationships and connecting in deeper ways to make life worth living. And you've got this all organized for you step by step and delivered via video to make it quick and easy to soak it all in. And also, I've got to mention, it was designed for super busy professionals, so instant accessibility is key. You've got a huge variety of daily exercises to get your development to keep your development fresh and exciting. There are 60 downloadable workbooks, a members-only area for discussions, and the whole thing is delivered online so you can access it anywhere from any device. And not only that, you can access it forever. You've got lifetime access to this. Now, what you are doing is training your mind to enjoy the optimist lifestyle. And through the incremental improvement program, you were able to do this bit by bit, little by little, so it sticks. It's the difference between a flash in the pan, single day at the gym, or that consistent, healthy lifestyle. Oh, and I do have to tell you that you'll love the science, how science shows that happy people live longer, they're more creative, they're more resilient, they're more productive, they bounce back faster from illnesses, they are more social, more charitable, more hopeful, more liked by others, and even they're more likely to get a raise. And what's amazing is that now you can do something about your happiness levels. And I want to talk to you for a moment about the science. And this is a study that you'll find in the course. It ties in directly what Leslie shares with you, that you attract into your life that which you already are. And I love that the science backs this up. So the question that they posed is, what if you could look at someone's photograph and accurately predict how fortunate that person's life is going to turn out just by evaluating their smile? Well, actually, you can. In Harker and Keltner's famous yearbook study, researchers found that women who smiled the most lived happier lives. They enjoyed more satisfying marriages, had fewer life setbacks, and expressed greater overall well-being. The study, published in the year 2000, compared the yearbook photos of 49 college-age women with life outcome data collected over a 30-year period. This was back in 1958 and 1960. They looked at the yearbook data of these 21-year-old college-age women. And by observing their facial muscles, they have the zygomatic major. It's the muscle that turns the lip corners up, and the muscles surrounding the eyes. The researchers were able to identify authentic, genuine smiles known in the scientific community as Doshin smiles. Well, they then coded the facial behaviors and compared them to the long-term life outcomes. This revealed the connection between genuine smiles and overall well-being. Now, remember, we're talking about genuine smiles here, because everyone smiles in a yearbook photograph. And there was a reason that we spent so much time at the beginning talking about that honesty thing. Remember that? I told you my algebra cheating story. You will only get these benefits if you are genuinely happy. You know, the benefits of being less likely to get a divorce, or have fewer life setbacks, or living a longer, healthier life. You know, you can't fake it with that flight attendant smile and get all that stuff. Incidentally, there's another study where they analyzed photographs from Major League Baseball players from the 1952 season. And what they found was that those with genuine smiles lived on average 5 to 8 years longer than the others. Isn't that amazing? Don't you love this science? You know, so if researchers can look at your smile and determine if it's truly sincere and accurately predict how fortunate your life is going to turn out, does it also mean that they can shape the fortunate outcomes of your life by fostering the kind of happiness that produces genuine smiles? Absolutely, because happiness is a skill. And if you put a system in place where you actively, deliberately increase your happiness levels, then you will be able to create this life you want. You know, imagine how clear your mindset's going to be when you work for 12 weeks on removing destructive thought patterns and replacing them with healthy, positive ones. You know, or can you see the mental cataracts falling off? Remember when you pictured how happy those blind Mongolians were when their eyesight was restored, and how I told you that you will feel the same way, that your life is going to become clear. You know, when you no longer feel confined by your circumstances, when stress and anxiety no longer have the death grip on your life that they once had, when happiness and satisfaction is no longer some out of reach thing that you can never quite get a hold of. Imagine how amazing this is going to be when you wake up each morning excited about what the day is going to bring, because you're running towards it deliberately, intentionally. See in your mind how good this is going to feel, you know, to go to bed peaceful and happy and sleep through the night stress-free. You know, those Mongolians were so excited when their cataracts were removed, and you are going to feel the same way. And all right, I know that you're asking, come on, Scott, what's the investment on this? Give it to me. Well, let me ask you, how much is it worth to you? And I'm asking this for a reason. It's actually the same reason that I repeatedly asked you, are you willing? Are you willing to be happier? Because see, it's not so much how much you have to pay to be happier, because we've all tried to buy happiness and we know that doesn't work, but how much are you willing to do? Let's jump back to that concept of unnecessary suffering. Remember the blind Mongolians? Remember that they didn't know that they didn't have to be blind. And remember that we compared that to the psychological cataracts that we have built up in our mind. Well, for these Mongolians, all they needed to do was line up outside the building and hope they were fortunate enough to get in. If they got in, the simple surgery cured everything for them. However, the challenge for you, with your psychological cataracts, is that they can't be removed by someone else. You have to do it. So I ask you again, are you willing to be happier? Are you willing to commit 10 minutes a day? Are you willing to put yourself first for 12 weeks? And if so, I want to help. I want to make this totally easy and totally doable for you. So that's why I've made it incredibly affordable for you right now. I want you to dive in and start getting that life that you've always wanted. So you can get started today for just $97 and then 11 easy installments of $97 to follow. Again, I just want to make this incredibly affordable so you can get started today. $97 today, 11 installments of $97 to follow, each 30 days apart. Now, all you have to do is click the enroll button and you can get started. All the details are there for signing up. I will tell you too that you can also save $167 if you go with the one-time payment plan. So you get to choose, a one-time payment option or the 12-month payment plan, whichever works for you. You just click the enroll button, pick your option, and also don't worry, that opens up in a separate window so that you'll still hear us talking, and you can totally stick with us. Also, once you're enrolled, give me a few minutes, and I'll get you your log information so that you can get started right away. Again, all the details are there for you to sign up. So,
Scott, can
yes.
I interject something here?
You bet.
I know a lot of the folks on the call have been listening to some of the things I teach, or they've read my books and whatnot, and I just want to put my stamp on this because even if I can help you reach your goals, even if you get that job you're trying to get, or make that income you're trying to get, or fix the relationship you're trying to fix, even if you achieve those things, if you have not fostered these thought habits that Scott's talking about, you'll make the money, you'll get the house, you'll have that family, but you still won't be happy. The happiness comes with you. And so if you had to choose between any of the programs that I have to teach you, or this training for this basic skill set, I would say wait on mine and go learn how to be happy now the way things are, so that you can take that happiness with you into your goal achievement and into your success. And I guarantee you, if you learn these skills, then what I have to teach you is going to come so much more quickly and much more naturally. And then you've got the whole package. I've seen people achieve these incredible goals with the goal setting strategies that I teach and share, but a lot of times there's something missing. There's a piece missing, and for a lot of them, this is the missing piece. And so they get in this addiction of goal achievement because it feels so good to achieve the goal, but the happiness piece is elusive. And so that I just want you to know that's how important I think this is to whatever you endeavor to do, whether or not you do anything with me. This is a basic piece that can change your life.
Well, thank you, Leslie. And it is so interesting. Sean Acor, he's an ex-Harvard researcher, talks a lot about exactly what you're saying. We've got the success model backwards. We always believe that if you work hard, you will be successful and then you will be happy. But we all know highly successful people who are unhappy. And yet, if we reverse it, if we focused first on, if we reverse engineer it, what do we ultimately want? We want to be happy. Well, if we focus on that, then everything else clicks into place.
Well,
and
that's why we think we want the goal. It's because we think it's going to make us happy. Scott, have you ever heard of anybody leaving a very happy spouse?
No, and I know that there are a lot of comments about that happy people stay married, and that is why that's one of the things that really fuels why I do what I do. I have so many friends going through divorce right now, and I think, oh, if you would just take time for yourself, if you would just condition your mind to be truly grateful, to be truly appreciative, to serve others, to do all these different skills, oh my goodness, you could have it all. You could stay married and keep that happiness. But
And not just stay the way things are, but it transforms. People around you have to adjust and respond when you are genuinely happier.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for your comments on that. That is so helpful. And yeah, anyway, I hope that you see the value that that this course, that this system holds for you. I want you to know that you can absolutely do a do-it-yourself program. You can create your own system, and that's what you need. You need to have some sort of system where you can repeatedly you reprogram yourself, focus on these things. But if you want a shortcut, and it doesn't take the work out, it just takes the work of creating the system out, then join my system. And it does come with a 30-day money back guarantee, because I want it to work for you. And I know that you can try it risk-free, but I don't want you to try it. I don't want you to dabble with your happiness. I'm looking for those people who are hungry for more happiness, because those are the kind of people that I want to spend more of my time with. And that's really important, because you're not the only one investing in you. I am as well. And let me tell you about this 10-day jumpstart. And this is really a big deal. I want this to be super effective for you. And I know one of your main concerns is, can I really do this? You've already answered that question of, am I willing to be happier? But you're worried that you won't have the stamina to see this through. You see the value it holds for you. You can see how much better your life's going to be, spending just 10 minutes a day on this. But there's that nagging thought of, what if I forget, or if I get lazy, or like life gets busy? And I get that. And I want you to know that you're not alone. You don't have to go through this alone. So every person enrolled in my 12-week system gets a coach. So with this 10-day jumpstart, what you are going to do when you enroll, you're going to do two things. You are going to commit to the time of day that you will do this each day. Make this the same time each day, so that you can begin this positive routine. And then I want you to tell us what time you've committed to do this, and in what time zone you're in. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is you are going to tell us what time each day you'd be available for a coaching call. Now, during the first 10 days, we will call you on 2 of those days around the time that you've chosen for the call. You've got this buddy following up with you. Personal development doesn't have to be a solitary, lonely activity. And this is one of those things that makes it super effective, because are you going to do the exercises when you know you've got a friend counting on you and who is going to be giving you a call? You bet. And it's when you do the activities, that's when you begin to experience the change in your life. Also, I will let you know that we have a private Facebook group for all the people in my system, so that you get tons of support that you wouldn't just find on your own. So I want this to be successful for you. I want you to be walking around with a big smile on your face. Let's have you have a brighter sense of peace and tranquility about you. Let's get you so calm and so happy that other people will notice. And when they notice, they're going to ask you, why are you always so happy? And when they ask you that, I want you to send them back to me. You'll be like that person who loses a bunch of weight and everyone asks them, how did you do it? So before I open it up to the Q&A, I want to talk about 2 bonuses available just while we're on this call. The first is that for the first 10 people who sign up today, when they get their coaching call, they will be getting it from me personally. Won't that be great? You and I can talk personally and get you going exactly where you want to be. To get this bonus, you'll want to make sure that you click the Enroll Now button before those 10 spaces are filled up, of course, because you can imagine how limited my time is, which is why I need to limit that to my personal coaching calls to the first 10. So I hope you get that bonus. The next bonus, let's see. Yeah, the next bonus is for all the people who have stuck with me for this webinar. Because you've stuck around, I could tell that you're my kind of people, and you are going to love improving your mind and your life. And so I have a free 23-page downloadable quote book that will help you stay focused on what's going right in your life. And this is a beautiful thing. So let me tell you how you get this. You simply click the Enroll Now button, which it doesn't sign you up for anything. It just opens up a new browser window. And in that browser window, it'll look something like this. That's where you can get the 12-week system, but it's also, if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there's a link down there that says webinar bonus. And that link is for you. Enter your email address and I will send you the link for the 23-page quote book as a free bonus. And that's for sticking with us. So thank you so much for believing that life can get better for you. And I do have to ask you, what do you think? You know, it's pretty amazing, right? You know, when I first learned how simple and easy it is to get happier, it totally surprised me. So I will just give you a quick recap on what you've learned. You've learned that happiness, or more appropriately, more happiness, is totally in control. You can change the direction of your day, your week, your month, your year, and your life by taking deliberate control of what you choose to focus on with your mind. You have also seen how simple it is to implement mindfulness exercises, and that you can dramatically change your outlook each and every day. Again, now these mindfulness exercises can be super simple, and we only went over one exercise, but you can see how it can make a significant difference in your life. And remember that although they're super simple, they won't happen by accident. We're too caught up in the out of control pace of our lives. But lastly, we learned that really to experience lasting change, you need to use a system. You need to use some sort of repetition that will help you achieve long-term results. So hopefully you can see this is totally doable. Hopefully you can say, I can get happier and I can make it stick by using a systemized approach. And I hope you can see that you can do it today. Now, I'm not really sure exactly why you showed up today, but I can take a guess that you're not 100% satisfied with where your life is right now. And that's actually a good thing for you, because it means you're ready to strive. And it's in the striving where you experience tremendous growth and development. And striving is actually skill number 6. I'll just give you a little hint there. So if you've shown up for a reason, and anyway, I absolutely hope that you get what you are looking for. I do hope that you go from whatever happiness level you're at up 2 or 3 or 4 notches to something better. And I hope that you've paid attention to, not only what will get you happier, but what will also make it stick. And that's to have some sort of system. So whether you use your system or create your own, or my system, whatever, I sincerely hope that you are inspired to take action. Because now that you know happiness is a skill, that means there is always, 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 that you can always, always, always be as happy as you're willing to be. So now that's the webinar. I'd like to open this up for Q&A, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions on the skills to happiness, on positive psychology, on mindfulness, on my program, on other programs, on ideas for creating your own, whatever you would like. Also, yeah.
Oh, I just see that there's a few questions that have already come in.
Okay.
I think if you click on the questions and answers, you'll see there's 4 in there right now.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, actually, one of them is not a question, but 3 of them are.
Uh-huh.
So start with those if we can.
Okay, yeah. Terry says, I want to do your course so badly and I'm willing to put in the effort. Unfortunately, we are without income right now and can pay for the life necessities. Is this always the price? Thank you so much. This is the price, and I'm sorry about your situation. And I've worked to make it as doable and as easy as I can. And absolutely, you don't need to use my system. There are other things out there. You can hop onto my website. You can connect with me at ncourage.life. That's the letter N, the word courage.life. And I have a lot of resources there, a lot of free resources, like the 3 mindsets of success. You can get that, and some other things that will help you condition yourself But I have made the course as economical as possible by stretching it out over a year. And absolutely, it doesn't take a year to get happy or 12 weeks to get happy. The system is designed really to create a lifestyle. So,
and at that website, they can learn more about your Feed Your Happy app, correct?
that's right. That's right. We have a lot of other resources. The Feed Your Happy app, if you are an iPhone user, you can download that. That is free. We have a lot of other free resources. The Feed Your Happy app will help you condition yourself each day and give you activities and things that you could do. And there's a lot of science in that as well that you can read. So that's a great resource for you. And I hope you can find that. Jerusha says, I came in a bit late. Is it possible for me to re-listen to this webinar recording when my kids go to bed? Yeah, absolutely. Things are a lot calmer when the kids go to bed. So yes, the rebroadcast of this will be available in about 2 hours. I will send you some emails so that you can get those. It will point you to where anyway, the whole rebroadcast is there. You can watch it. You can share it with your family and friends. And I hope that it has offered a great value for you. You know, these simple things that, boy, we don't realize what a big difference it makes. But I will be sending you an email on that. So we have Donna now. Let's see. Donna says, this may be answered during the course of the webinar, but my comment question is about the difference between happiness and joy. In my view, happiness and happening are similar. Happiness and I think joy are similar, but happiness is based upon what happens in your life. Joy is independent of events. Just wondering about your thoughts. That's a great comment. I really like that. You know what? And I think they are very similar. For me, I know I used to think all of this stuff existed outside of myself. I thought other things would make me happy. And I got caught in the myths of happiness. You know, that if I got a new car, or a new job, or, you know, a nicer house, that would make me happy. You know, also, you know, I felt like the things that I was doing, you know, that would make me happy. Anyway, it was always outside of myself. And once we learn that really it's about our focus, it's about internalizing, it's about becoming more conscious and aware of the things around us, then that's really when you're able to experience happiness and joy to its fullest. I use them interchangeably. I generally talk more about happiness than joy. I consider joy very long-lasting, but when you are using happiness as a skill, you are really conditioning yourself so that you can have that longer-lasting joy and happiness in your life, if that makes sense to you. Let's see. Madeline says, did you say something was free? I can't find that. Are you going to have free to Happy app? Oh, am I going to have the Feed Your Happy app on Android? We are working on creating that for Android. Right now, it is iPhone only. But yeah, and also on our website, you can pre-order the Android, which just means that we will mail you when we get all the programming done for the Android version. But if you have an iPhone, you can go to the App Store, Apple's App Store, and download Feed Your Happy and start working on your happiness today. Anyway, lots of resources. You can get the 3 mindsets of success. You'll get that at encourage.life. Again, that's the letter N, the word courage.life is a great way to get that. Do you see any other questions that you want me to jump into, Leslie?
I don't see any more, unless somebody has a quick one they want to throw in there real fast.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think this has been a great opportunity to learn more about this. Scott, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we wrap it up?
You know, I do. You know, before we close, I want to paint a little picture for you. You know, and let's say that you get my program and begin working on your mindfulness every day for just 10 minutes a day. You know, and you can kind of picture yourself 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Yeah, and each day, you know, you get a little bit better. And the next day is better than the one before. And you're becoming more awake and alive and aware. And you're realizing, you know, that in different ways that you have been sabotaging your own happiness, but now you're seeing things clearly. And not every day is perfect. In fact, and this is what we talked about on Friday, Leslie, you and I, then imagine that you come up against some pretty challenging days that used to stop you dead in your tracks, that used to bring out feelings of anger or frustration or bitterness and discouragement. But instead, you realize that you're calm, you're peaceful, you've taken steps to control and choose your mindset, you've been consistent and deliberate and intentional. And it's on one of those really bad days that would have thrown you before. It's on those days that you recognize that you are more in control than you ever thought possible. You were way less critical. You were more self-aware. You realize that your life is so good, and that you are fully conscious of the fact that you are much, much happier than you were before, by 2 levels or maybe 3. And it's all because you were willing to do something about it today. I love hanging around people that are willing. And so that's really what I have to offer. You absolutely don't have to use my system. You can create your own do-it-yourself system. I've spent 3 years putting this together, but to make it easier for people. But whatever you do something consistently every day and keep working on this, and understand that if you approach happiness as a skill, suddenly it is so in your control and you can do so many things. So
thanks so much, Scott. I really appreciate that. I've got some notes here from some of the things I take away from this is just that question, are you willing to be happier? And honestly, and frankly, and Scott, you can tell me if you've seen this or not, but sometimes you just have to be sad. I've been there, you know what I mean? For someone to tell me when I'm really sad or upset that I just need to be happy and that everything's going to work itself out, that kind of ticks me off.
Oh yeah.
But allowing yourself to feel sad and let it do its job. It's an emotion that we all have to feel, but to not get stuck there. And that's where are you willing to be happy? Are you willing to not get stuck in sadness? Let it run its course, and then build from there. And that's what the system can do.
Yeah.
Also,
and that's actually, if I could just interject one thing, that's actually one of the things that comes up in the program when you're taking this, is it talks about take time to mourn. So often we don't allow ourselves to mourn or to be sad or to feel emotion. We're embarrassed by it or something. Yeah. And so, when we rush through those emotions, we miss the cleansing effect, the things that help us to feel more human and feel connected with others. So absolutely, they're really, this program or just the positive psychology, as you get into it, as you understand, it is really about becoming more conscious and aware. And once you have those skills, then happiness does become a choice. I used to get frustrated too when people would say choose happiness because that's what I was doing, and it was making me more and more frustrated, but I didn't realize I was choosing poorly, because I was going the wrong way, choosing things that I thought would make me happy.
Right. There's a rhythm to it. And we're just trying to avoid the unnecessary suffering, just the unnecessary stuff. I mean, life's going to have its ups and downs, but let's avoid the ones that we don't have to experience. And I love that you said that gratitude is recognizing you're the recipient of deliberate kindness. Let's just add to that. Let's make some deliberate happiness on purpose. And, the skills that can be learned through repetition. So thank you for taking the time to share with us and reminding us that long-term results are possible, and that through repetition and through deliberate choosing to feed our mind with the kind of thoughts and inspiration that will help us remember why we can be happy and the benefits that come from that. I appreciate that, Scott. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you. And thank you for helping put this on so that so many more people could learn about this. And I really hope that it's useful to them, that they find that suddenly they have things within their own power that they can do.
Awesome. All right. So I think we'll wrap this up, and you'll be getting back with them in their email on where they can get the replay of this. Is that right? And how long it will be available to them?
I will. If you want that webinar bonus of the 23 downloadable quote book, make sure that before we jump off that you click that that Enroll Now button. You don't have to enroll if you don't want to, but that will open up another window, and that's where you find your link for that downloadable quote book. But yeah, I will send you an email that will have you have the link for the rebroadcast on that. And I hope that you enjoy that, and I hope you share it with your friends, and I hope that as you start to spiral up your own happiness, that you're able to help others along the way too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.